Good afternoon, everyone. We are here with David Feakes from the Parents Estate Planning Law Firm in Acton. And we have asked our Facebook fans, those of you watching in the audience today, to submit your most pressing questions about estate planning for parents and the estate planning process. And David is going to take a few moments of his time to answer some of the more popular. David, we noticed a few themes when we were collecting questions this week from our fans. The first was trusts. What are they? When do you need them? So I'll ask the first question from Molly in Concord. And she asks, when we planned in 2010, we were a family of 3. Now we're a family of 5. Do we need a new trust?
Well, Molly, thank you for the question. I'm going to assume from your question that you already have a trust in place. So let's work from that premise. You planned a few years ago as a family of 3. You put a trust in place. Now your family has grown by 2. What do you need to do? First of all, this kind of points out the importance of reviewing plans on a regular basis to make sure that the plans themselves keep up with all of the changes that are happening in your lives. And so in thinking about your trust, you most likely don't need to change the trust itself, or at least the structure of the trust. What you will probably want to do is incorporate the additions to your family into the trust. When we set up a trust, we would almost always incorporate future children into a trust. In other words, if we're creating a trust for clients and there's only one child of a couple, and we would name the child, but we would make a reference to future children and include a provision that says the trust is going to divide into equal shares for as many children that we have at the time of our death. And so it may be that your trust already has that provision built in, but what I've found with clients is that a lot of them want to formally name their children, new children, in their trust so that their children don't feel left out if anything ever happens to you, and they're looking back at things. But beyond your trust, the fact that you now have additions to your family means that there probably are some documents that do need to be updated. If you've named guardians for your kids, your guardianship nominations probably need to be updated. But again, it points out the need to review plans on a regular basis, which is something in our office we offer to our clients, to reach out and sit down every 3 years so that we can incorporate all kinds of changes in the plan, not only new children, but changes in the people who would play a role in the plan as well. So Molly, thanks for that question. Hopefully I've answered that well for you.
Great. Thanks, David. So Judy in Littleton knows she needs to plan, but has very little time in which she feels she can do so. So she writes, how long does the estate planning process actually take?
Yes, the curse of busy parents. It's hard to fit estate planning into a busy family life and work life. And we recognize that. We work primarily with families with young kids and recognize that our clients are busy. They've got a lot of things that they're focused on, and they don't want to spend a lot of time going in and out of a lawyer's office. So I'm going to speak specifically from our practice and our experience and our process. Different lawyers will work differently. But what we try to do is to make this as easy as seamless as possible for parents and for your families. We generally do planning in a 3-meeting process. The first meeting, which is the longest meeting, would be looking at what is in place for you right now, or what is going to happen to your kids and to your assets with whatever's in place for you right now. And then the second part of that meeting would be the start of the designing of a new plan, if that was an appropriate outcome, so that parents walk out of our first meeting knowing that they've already made the decisions that they need to make for their plan. That is what I see as their first sigh of relief. Hey, I've made the decisions. Then we have clients come back within 4 weeks to sign the documents themselves. So in the ensuing 4 weeks, we are finalizing the decisions, putting the documents together. Clients come back in, they sign the documents at their signing meeting, and then the plan is in place. That's what I see as the second sigh of relief. Hey, we did it. Now we got after the signing meeting, which is our final meeting. That's when we deliver the binder back to our clients, give them back their original documents. It's when we deliver our proprietary kids protection planning folder with things like caregiver instructions for babysitters and ID cards for parents to carry in their purse or wallet, identifying their short-term guardians. And the final meeting is also where we do our legacy interview, which is what makes us a little bit different as well, which is a recorded interview that I do with clients, sharing all of the intangible personal assets that the parents bring to planning, the kinds of things that would otherwise be lost forever if they weren't recorded and something happened to both parents. So in our office, it starts with the first meeting, 4 weeks to the second meeting, another 4 weeks to the third meeting. It's about 2 months beginning to end. Should fit into every family schedule. We recognize there's certain things we need to do, and there's a certain number of meetings we need to have, but we've tried to streamline it as much as possible. Other lawyers might break that out into a 4-meeting process. Some might let it go way beyond 2 months, but we've tried to keep it as condensed and as easy and as streamlined as possible for our clients. So Judith, thanks for that question. Hopefully that was helpful.
Great, David. I think it's a lot more manageable than people expect. All right, our last question, and this was a very popular one, is around the finality of these documents. So Eliza from Acton is concerned about naming her guardians. She wants to know, can she change her guardians after she's named them?
Great question, and the short answer is, as long as you're still living, you can change anything about your plan. You're not carving, there's no granite, we don't use granite when we create the plans, there's no chisel, I'm not carving these into stone to stand for all time. And the truth is, and what I know from working with young families for many, many years, is that the decisions that you make at the beginning are going to change at some level and in some way over time. Your guardians are going to change as your children get older. Some other decisions you make about your planning, they are going to change as your children get older and become adults. But you can change all of the decisions that you make, again, as long as you're still living. Once you've died, then the decisions obviously can't be changed, but as long as you're still living, you can change anything about your decisions. You can add to your plan, you could subtract from your plan. One of the most common changes I see with clients is around guardianship. Because very typically, young couples will name maybe their own parents as long-term guardians for their kids. But they know that as their kids get older, their parents may age out of that role. Their parents are getting older, and their parents might not be in the right place to take care of their kids, even as their kids become teenagers. And that's a point at which, when we get back together again for review meetings, which we're always doing with clients, we can look back and say, hey, you named your parents when your kids were still really young. Are they still appropriate to fill that role? And we may discover that there needs to be a change. And then we make those changes as we go along. And a lot of times what your plan will look like 10, 15 years from when you started will be a whole lot different than what it looked like when you first put it together. So again, quick answer, yes, you can make those changes. You want to make sure that no matter who you're working with, that you're going to have the opportunity to sit down with them. If you're working with a lawyer, you want to make sure you're going to have the opportunity to sit down with them on a fairly regular basis to check in and make sure that all of these potential changes are being reflected in your plan. Because the one thing you never want to have happen is have your family pull your plan down off a shelf after something happens to you and find out, to their dismay, that the plan is not working the way you intended it to because changes occurred, but the changes didn't get reflected in the plan. So make sure that you are reviewing your plan on a fairly regular basis to make sure those changes get reflected in the plan. But thanks so much for that question. I think, Megan, and that's all our questions for today. Thanks everyone for asking those questions. Please keep asking your questions. I am more than happy to answer them. I am actually delighted to answer them because I want parents to know the things that they don't yet know. So you can't learn anything if you don't ask those questions. Keep sending them in. If you have more specific questions about your particular needs or about planning for your own family, please feel free to call our office and talk to Paula, our Client Services Director. She will kind of explain our process to you, let you know how we can be of help to you and your family. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to see you. And we'd love to help you to plan to protect your family. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today.